Welcome back to Comical Opinions. This is Gabe Hernandez, and today we have a review of Zhao Volume 1 from Chiral Comics on Kickstarter. And in this graphic novel, we have the surviving members of the Zhao family who seek to retire to a quiet life after the Mongols have wiped out the Song dynasty in 13th century China. That is until fate steps in. But before we get started, please like, share, comment, subscribe, and hit that bell for notification. Your attention is greatly appreciated, and stay tuned to the end for our final rankings and the score. Okay, so let's get into it. Zhao Volume 1 is written by Kang Jing, Api No, art also by Kang Jing, colors by Alan Bay, letters by Kang Jing, and cover art by Kang Jing and Alan Bay. So this is pretty much a small creative team handling many of the same facets, which is great. We love to see that from indie creators, and we want to see more of that. So what is the story about? This is very closely aligned with actual historical events. So in Chinese history, the Song dynasty, which was a ruling dynasty in 13th century, was wiped out, or at least mostly wiped out, by the invading Mongols from the north. And in this story, we pick up with the Zhao family, who are on the run after the Song dynasty was defeated and the emperor was killed, and there is no lineage left. The Mongols have taken over, and the Zhao dynasty, led by General Zhao Ming, seeks to just kind of basically take on an assumed name, live in a quiet house in the middle of a village in the middle of nowhere, just want to be left alone. The dynasty is done. Everyone he's sworn to protect and uphold within the Song dynasty has been eliminated, and there's no reason for him to put in his family in any jeopardy or danger. So he decides to just live the quiet life, and that goes on for about 6 years. Now, in the interim, they're just trying to make enough money to survive, live on a quiet, in a small hovel, and do all the things they need to do to stay essentially out of the limelight in a small village. One day, his sons happen to find a small noodle shop owner being abused by one of the Mongols, or the Mongol leader's princes, gentleman by the name of Prince Targai. Hopefully, I'm saying that right. Uh, the son, I should say, the middle and the youngest son decide to stand up for the noodle shop owner, and they beat up the prince, the Mongol prince, and that eventually leads to a squadron of soldiers coming to take them away. The father arms himself with some axes and defends his home, but in the middle of this small skirmish, the Mongol General Bayan, shows up, recognizes who the father is, Zhao Ming, who is a much acclaimed and respected spearmaster, and decides to take them all under arrest as guests, or I should say, cordial prisoners before the king, or I should say the emperor. They take them before the emperor, and they're given an ultimatum, which kind of sets the tone for the direction of the story from then on forward, which is they have an opportunity to either all be executed for their rebellious ways and also as being former members of an enemy dynasty, or one of the members of the court offers up an interesting proposition. He offers Zhao Ming the opportunity to become a general for the new Mongol leader, or the new Mongol emperor. And the idea is abhorrent at first, but there's a catch to it. The catch is, if he doesn't join, then many more Chinese people from the surrounding villages will be slaughtered and killed. So it creates an interesting moral dilemma for this once proud former soldier. Now has to go through this scenario to either join his enemies, the people who was sworn against as the defeaters, or the people who destroyed his former masters, or he has to join up, or basically sacrifice himself and his entire family. He's given no choice, and that creates an interesting moral dilemma for him to work through, but also sets the stage for possibly a new war, or even from another direction might even set the stage for peace. Kind of tough to tell, but the volume kind of plays it all out and sets them on a particular path, which spells interesting developments for whatever comes next in the second volume, presuming that there is one. So interesting factoid: the whole scenario starts off with what they call of the Battle of Yemen, which takes place in March of 1279 in China, and includes the descriptions of the Song Dynasty, and also includes the descriptions of the Zhao clan, or the Zhao family. These are all real and historical people. Now, some of the events that take place in this graphic novel are, dramatic revisionism, which is perfectly okay. Nobody was there in person, so they're not going to record all the conversations, of course. But it plays out against the backdrop of real historical events. How fine-tuned and close the graphic novel is to the actual history of that scenario is up for debate, and that might be fun to dig into if you're a history buff, especially the for China and Mongols during the 13th century. If you're interested in that sort of thing, this gives you an interesting jumping on point to kind of figure out all the little details of where they cross paths with historical fact versus a little dramatic fiction, which is cool. Um, but even if you don't know any of the background of those events from the Battle of Yemen and the Song Dynasty, and what was taking place in the area at that time, this is still an interesting, dramatic, and surprisingly well written graphic novel. So, what do we like about Zhao Volume 1? Uh, the characters are very distinct and well written. The pacing and the plotting is excellent. This graphic novel is just over 190 pages of content, so it's not small. You're definitely getting your money's worth. But the sequential flow of the story is excellent. You like the dialogue, the moral dilemma that the father Zhao Ming is put in is interesting, and the way it's developed, instead of just being a simple ultimatum, really has some meat to it as far as how he's approached from different sort of opposing figures under the Mongol emperor's court. And so you get a lot of sort of political intrigue, but also at the same time you get plenty of drama and you get plenty of action to go along with it. So lots of positives all the way from start to finish. On the negative side, I think probably the one downside is not necessarily with the story, it's the art. The art is not bad, it's okay. But in some places, it looks very basic, rudimentary. Uh, it's not terrible by any stretch. We've definitely seen worse, but you're definitely on the kind of the more developing, or I hate to say the word, but a slightly amateurish side of the art. Generally speaking, it's good. It's not great. It's certainly not Big Two quality, that's for sure. But especially with the faces when they're getting into more expressive acting, and when they have to emote to kind of give you the impact of a particular scene or a panel. But overall, it's okay art. It could be better, but it's just generally okay, which is, it doesn't detract from the story in any way, which is a positive. So, what is the final verdict on Zhao Volume 1? Lots of great historical context for you history buffs, but the story is still well written and dramatic, and lots of action and acting and interesting moral dilemmas, as well as just a simple, martial arts story, which there is certainly some of that in here, but it's not a wall to wall action story, but it's still interesting nonetheless. So, having said that, we're going to give Zhao Volume 1 a solid 8.8 out of 10. I hope you enjoyed this review. But before you leave, please like, share, comment, subscribe to Comical Opinions for more comic review and analysis every week. And you have a great day.